Good morning, my fellow Rotarians, members of the family of Rotary, and guests. Toronto has been a fantastic host city for this convention. Don't you agree? No doubt. But the city also holds a special place in Rotary history because it has been a center for milestones in global health. Let me take you back to the 1950s, to scientific discoveries, which led to the most ambitious project in the Rotary Foundation's history, polio eradication. As we all know, Dr. Jonas Salk was the first to develop an effective vaccine against polio. But Dr. Salk had a problem. He did not know how to mass produce this vaccine for medical trials or large-scale distribution. But here in Toronto, a Canadian scientist, Dr. Leon Farrell, was working on a method to produce the vaccine in large quantities. Now, Dr. Farrell was already a trailblazer in many ways. In 1933, at the age of 29, she obtained a PhD degree in biochemistry at the University of Toronto, becoming one of a small group of women in her generation to earn a doctorate in sciences. Indeed. She had pioneered a new method of vaccine production for other diseases by gently rocking cell cultures to stimulate growth. She adapted this method for the production of poliovirus, making it possible for Dr. Salk to have a volume of vaccine he needed to conduct the largest medical experiment in history. During 1954-55, Salk's field trials reached 1.8 million children in the United States, Canada, and Finland, and confirmed the safety of this vaccine. Although Dr. Farrell led the team of researchers which produced that vital vaccine against polio, she was an unsung hero for so many years, much like so many others in our effort. While Jonas Salk appeared on the cover of Time magazine, Dr. Farrell faded into relative obscurity. There are hundreds, maybe thousands more of unsung heroes in our fight against polio. But today we remember those unsung heroes, and we hope to honor their memory. Now, we can do this in two ways. First, we can honor their legacy through finishing what we promised by delivering a polio-free world. And amen. For sure. And second, we can build Rotary's future by positioning ourselves to be ready for a post-polio era, following the world being certified polio-free. When that time arrives, we Rotarians will have almost unlimited opportunities to further change the world for good. A decade ago, Bill Gates Sr. told us, when it comes time to decide what will follow polio, you Rotarians need to think big. Anything less would be a waste of Rotary's potential. This is why I believe this is an amazing time to be a Rotarian. You see, the finish line for polio is within sight. Only 11 cases of polio have been reported at virtually the halfway point in this year. Amen. Go for it. This is the lowest in history. And when that finish line is crossed, before the world can be certified polio-free, we will need 36 consecutive months with no polio virus in a person or in the environment. In the past year, Rotary and global leaders pledged US $1.5 billion to end polio. This total includes Rotary's pledge of $450 million. Now today I can tell you that through our End Polio Now Countdown to History campaign, Rotarians are very near to achieving this year's $50 million goal. Hearing where we stood on fundraising, Mrs. Birla from Mumbai, India, confirmed another gift of $1 million from her Birla Group, and this brings her total giving to Polio Plus to over $11 million. Wow. And you know why we are so fortunate to have Mrs. Birla as a donor is because she comes from a country that has been certified polio-free for over 5 years. And because of the great work that you have been doing in meeting our $50 million challenge goal this year, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has now provided the 2-for-1 match for this year, which has resulted in a $100 million contribution to the Rotary Foundation. That is great. But as we've heard all morning long in the stories, the dramatic stories we've been hearing and listening to with awe, as we know, eradicating polio is far more than fundraising. Last October, our members organized a 3,671 global World Polio Day events, twice as many as the year before. And for over 100 years, Rotarians through our foundation have pioneered new ways to make a difference. Now, any of you in this audience could be the next pioneer. It starts with one idea, and you do not need to limit yourself to the groundbreaking Polio Plus program to find inspiration. If we look back at almost any decade during the first century, we can find innovations which adapted our service to a rapidly changing world. Think of the first institutes of international understanding, which Rotarians launched in the 1930s to help illuminate global issues. In the 1940s, we launched our first program of scholarships for graduate study. And in fact, we even had a seat at the table at 1945 San Francisco conference when the United Nations was chartered. In the 1960s, we launched our first program to pair Rotary clubs and districts from different countries all around the world. In the 2000s, the Rotary Peace Centers program began equipping the best students from the continents all over the world for careers in peace and conflict resolution. And today, this program has over 1,162 graduates. I know it. And we're adding 100 new Rotary Peace Fellows every year, and we have just made a decision on the trustees to add 4 more new peace centers over the next decade. And Rotarians have devised new ways to fight disease. And in some areas of the world, public health strategies will be forever changed thanks to the global partnership model and tactics Rotary helped to create and refine for polio. In addition, Rotarians have created better education opportunities as well as pathways to economic empowerment. And today we are also serving those deprived of the basics that sustain life: clean water, good hygiene, modern sanitation. Now, as we have heard not only this morning but over the last several days, all of these are within our 6 areas of focus. These 6 areas are the building blocks for peace. Rotary's commitment to these 6 areas of focus, plus our emphasis on building peace, is the central reason our Rotary Foundation has been able to raise and invest more than $4.4 billion in programs over the past century. Last year, when we celebrated the Rotary Foundation centennial anniversary, we had a challenging, comprehensive goal worldwide of $300 million. Well, the total raised was just over $304 million. This was possible only because of you and other Rotarians and clubs worldwide. Even though some thought we might encounter a serious letdown in fundraising following the successes of our centennial year, our foundation's trustees were united behind the idea that 2017 would be the first year of the Rotary Foundation's second century. Further, they believed that you Rotarians would respond to the challenge because the needs around the world are more pressing now than ever. We established an ambitious, comprehensive fundraising goal to raise $360 million this year. The top two funding objectives were polio and the annual fund. Polio, of course, our number one corporate priority, and it had a goal of $150 million for this year. And the annual fund, which makes possible many of our life-changing programs, had a goal of $135 million. Thanks to your generosity and that of Rotarians around the world, I'm excited to announce, and I'm glad you're being seated right now, that together we have raised this year a new one-year all-time record for our foundation, and we're still counting, $372,600,000. Can you believe that? You bet. Our foundation's successes in fundraising allows more Rotary clubs the opportunity to implement bigger, better, and more sustainable projects through global grants. Over 85% of our districts worldwide are participating in global grants. Last year we had about 1,200 global grant applications that were approved, and we're a little bit ahead of that this year, along with an additional, this year, 487 district grants involving 168 countries. Another major priority of our foundation is building the Rotary Foundation Endowment 2025 by 2025. We're aiming high to build an endowment with $2.025 billion by the year 2025. When our 2025 by 2025 endowment goal has been fully funded, the Rotary Foundation reasonably can anticipate, in today's dollars, approximately $100 million each and every year from investment earnings. Think of that. Now, why is this important? Because these funds will help ensure that future Rotarians, many of whom we have here today who will be around for many decades to come, you will have the resources to design and implement projects which will make a difference. The achievements I just highlighted have been accomplished through teamwork and partnership of the three parts that comprise Rotary: Rotary clubs, Rotary International, and the Rotary Foundation. Working together, these three parts are what make it possible for Rotary to make a difference. Now, as I close, let me tell you about the kind of difference that you are helping make happen through our Rotary Foundation. We saw evidence of this earlier in the earlier presentations. Outstanding. But I shall share a story because as we talk about what happens through our foundation, we frequently talk about numbers of people and dollars that are so large it's beyond our ability to actually get our minds around it. Most importantly, it's impossible to personalize or humanize the impact that we have and tell the fact about the impact of how Rotarians are making a difference. When I was district governor, I led a team of Rotarians who traveled to India to provide polio survivors with corrective surgeries. The program was a great success. More than 750 children were given a chance to have long, productive lives. While I was in one village, I met a 9-year-old boy named Parikh, a polio survivor who was on his way for corrective surgery. Some of the surgeries are a relatively short 20 to 30-minute procedure on certain tendons, followed by 45 or 60 days of recovery and rehabilitation. As I stood near a doorway to the wooden building used for the surgeries, I watched as Parikh navigated a dirt path on his hands and knees. Soon I saw his mother and father coming my way as well. But it was Parikh who reached me first. Now, I wasn't dressed like a doctor. He must have known that I was part of this outside group that had come to help. Because when he had crawled all the way over to me, he did something that utterly astonished me. He bent his head down and kissed the top of my shoe. For me, time virtually stopped. All I could feel were chills going up and down my spine. And then his mother came over and did the same. And next, Parikh's father approached, and he also knelt down and kissed the top of my shoe. I was speechless. I just stood there, and finally a local Rotarian came over and whispered in my ear. He said, "This is their way of saying thank you for changing their sons and their lives forever and for giving him back his life." As I have looked back on this experience, I have often wondered, whatever happened to Parikh? Well, thanks to the assistance of one of the local Rotarian physicians who participated in that corrective surgery camp 21 years ago, we are able to share with you a brief video with a special message from a young man we believe is Parikh, as well as 2 others who were beneficiaries of those surgeries. But Parikh's voice speaks the loudest, in my opinion, because of the personal story that I have just shared with you.
In India, mass immunizations began in 1995. Rotarians were enthusiastic in creating awareness, immunizing children, mobilizing communities for polio immunizations. India still had hundreds of polio-affected children with various deformities of hands and feet, which needed tedious and complicated surgeries.
In the year 97, a team of Rotarians led by then District Governor Paul Netzel visited India, and the first such polio corrective surgery camp was held. Polio is a disease which paralyzes the child, which leads to the deformities of the hands, legs and back. These camps have proved to be a great transition from disability and despair to dignity and development of the child.
We visited patients operated 21 years ago.
झाला होता त्यावेळेला माझा मी काय चालू शकत नव्हतं. मला दुसरा माणूस उचलून नेईल त्यावेळेला मी पुढे जाऊ शकतो. तोपर्यंत मी एक जागेवर बसून माझा काय आहे एक जागेवर बसणार. त्यावेळेला दुसरा कोणी येईल घेऊन जाईल मला त्यावेळेला दुसरा काय बघायला भेटणार. रोटरी म्हणजे आम्हाला हॉस्पिटलमधून नेऊन ते रोटरीबद्दल आमचं ऑपरेशन फ्रीमध्ये करून दिलं. त्या सहाय्याने माझा सर्व काय आली मी माझे हातपाय म्हणजे पायानं चालू शकतो मी आणि कामधंदा करू शकतो. नंतर मी 5 वर्षापूर्वी रिक्षा घेतली. रिक्षा घेऊन मी रिक्षा सर्व चालवतो आणि सर्व काय रिक्षाचा मेंटेनन्स काय असेल ते सर्व मी मेकॅनिक काम पण करतो आणि आई वडील व माझ्या पत्नी मुलीचा सर्वांचा मी सांभाळ करू शकतो.
माझं नाव विजय बाबू कोळी, मी पदवीधर आहे. माझ्या उजव्या पायाला पोलिओ असल्यामुळे माझ्या जीवनात काही रस नव्हता आणि कुठे मी फिरू शकत नव्हतो. शिक्षण घेतलं होतं पण गेल्यामुळे नोकरी मिळत नव्हती. डॉक्टर दीपक पुरोहित यांच्याशी भेट झाल्यामुळे पोलिओचं करेक्टिव्ह ऑपरेशन करून काही अंशी सुधारणा करून तुम्हाला चालता येईल म्हणे, फिरता येईल. रोटरी क्लब यांच्या सौजन्याने पोलिओ करेक्टिव्ह ऑपरेशन कॅम्प केला. त्या कॅम्पमध्ये माझं ऑपरेशन झालं. त्याच्यानंतर मला जॉब मिळाला आणि जॉबनंतर मी आता पूर्ण वेळ म्हणजे पूर्ण कुटुंबाचं पालनपोषण करतो. माझ्या 2 मुलींचे लग्न करून मी आता माझ्या जीवनात सुखी आहे. याचं सर्व श्रेय डॉक्टर दीपक पुरोहित साहेब आणि रोटरी क्लब या संस्थेला देण्यात.
2 वर्षाची असताना पोलिओ झाला. मग मला चालता येत नव्हतं. रोटरी क्लबतर्फे माझे ऑपरेशन झाले. आता मी कॅलिपर लावून चालू शकते आणि जॉबही करते.
We have helped more than 1,500 such children. It is really heartening to see the effects of these camps over the years. Our small deeds in the past have led to the sea change in the lives of these children, thanks to Rotary.
This is just one story about our Rotary Foundation. Thank you for your contributions, both financially and in service. And thank you for what you will do in the future. And the next time you think about the level of your gift to our foundation, please think of the Parikhs of the world. Thank you very much.